おばんです. She had kept a daily journal for 4 years, precise, consistent, her own hand, her own voice, until the night she found an entry she had no memory of writing, describing an event that had not yet happened when the entry was dated. She searched back through 4 years of journals, found 17 such entries, all accurate, all in her hand, all describing futures that had since come true. Something had been using her own journal to leave her messages. For 4 years, she had only just found them. Don't trust your own handwriting tonight. It is time for chapter 132. Our journal is perhaps the most intimate record a person keeps, written in your own hand, in your own voice, in the private hours, for no audience but yourself, which is why finding an entry you have no memory of writing, in your own handwriting, in your own voice, describing something that had not yet happened, produces a particular kind of dread that no external intrusion could match, because whatever left those entries did not come from outside. It came from somewhere much closer, and had been using the most private record of her inner life to leave messages she was never meant to find all at once. A woman had kept a daily journal for 4 years without interruption, writing every evening before bed, the same journal she had kept since she was young, a habit so ingrained it required no thought or effort. Simply the end of the day recorded in her own hand before sleep. On the night in question, she was reviewing an older journal, looking for a specific entry she remembered writing, when she found one she did not remember at all. A full page in her own handwriting, her own particular way of forming letters, her own characteristic phrasing, describing an event in precise detail. She read the date at the top of the entry, checked her calendar. The entry had been written 8 months ago. The event it described had occurred 3 weeks ago. She sat with this for a long time, then began checking other journals systematically, looking for entries she did not remember writing. She found the second one within an hour. A different journal, a different date, same handwriting, same voice, describing something that had not yet happened when the entry was dated, something that had since occurred exactly as written. She found a third, a fourth. By the time she had worked through all 4 years of journals, she had found 17 entries. She had no memory of writing, each one describing a future event, each one accurate, each one in her own hand, in her own voice, as though she herself had written them, in moments she had no memory of. If these stories have found their way to you, if you find yourself returning to this quiet room, there is something small you can do, like and subscribe. It tells me, and whatever else watches from this room, that you were here, and that you intend to find your way back. She laid all 17 entries out in chronological order, read them as a sequence for the first time. The earliest was from the first month she had kept this particular journal. The most recent was from 6 weeks ago, each one describing a future event, all of them now past, all of them accurate, all of them written in the quiet hours before bed in her own hand, in her own voice with no memory attached to them whatsoever. She thought carefully about what this meant, about the moments between waking and sleep when the hand moves across the page with the automatic ease of long habit, about what might use that ease, that automaticity, that trusted private channel, to leave messages in the only voice she would not question. Shakkoi. That realization, cold in the way of understanding that the most private record you keep has not been entirely private. I wonder, have you ever read something in your own journal and felt uncertain that you wrote it? A phrase that doesn't sound quite like you? An observation you don't remember making. Perhaps you dismissed it as a tired evening's writing. Perhaps you should look again. Granny is always listening. The most recent entry, from 6 weeks ago, described an event that had not yet happened when it was written. She read it carefully, could not identify what event it referred to. The description specific enough to be intentional, but not specific enough for her to place it yet. She began writing in her journal more carefully after that, more consciously, watching her own hand as it moved across the page, looking for the moments when the writing felt less like her own. She found nothing for 3 weeks. Then one morning woke to find a new entry, written in the night, in her hand, her voice, describing something that had not yet happened. She read it once, closed the journal, and waited to find out what it was describing. You are still here. Good. Some stories need a witness all the way to the end. I wonder, when did you last read back through something you wrote without quite remembering writing it? When she told me this story, the event described in the most recent entry had already occurred. She would not tell me what it was, said only that knowing it was coming had not made it easier when it arrived, and that she had not stopped keeping her journal. Simply read each entry twice now before closing the cover, once for what she had written, once to check whether something else had written alongside her, in the night, in her hand, in her voice, as it apparently had been doing for 4 years. In the most private record she kept, without her knowledge and without her permission. I think about the particular intimacy of a daily journal, the trust placed in it, the assumption that what is written there came entirely from the person holding the pen. Most journals hold exactly what they appear to hold, the private thoughts and observations of one person across time. But occasionally a journal that has been kept long enough and faithfully enough becomes something else as well, a channel, a medium through which something finds a way to leave messages in the only voice that will not be questioned, the writer's own. And the messages it leaves are not random, are not warnings exactly, simply information, delivered in the most private way available, through the hand that writes every evening before sleep, in the moments when habit makes the writing automatic, and attention drifts, and something else briefly takes the pen, ndanyaa. Some messages take years to be received. The writing never stops. Only the reading varies. Another whispered story from Japan, shared quietly here beside the kotatsu. If you keep a journal, read it carefully tonight. Not the recent entries, the older ones, the entries from months or years ago that you wrote quickly before sleep and have not looked at since. Look for the ones you do not remember writing, the entries that describe something with a specificity that feels deliberate, that refer to events that had not yet happened when the date at the top was written. Most journals hold only what their keeper put there. But if you find an entry in your own hand, in your own voice, describing something that came true after it was written, search further, because if it is there once, it is almost certainly there before. Patient, consistent, using the most trusted channel available, your own handwriting, your own voice. In the private hours before sleep, when habit makes the hand move automatically and something else briefly takes the pen. If this story stayed with you, if the dark or the shadow feels a little closer tonight, you know where to find me. I am always here beside the kotatsu, watching, waiting. And if you wish others to find their way here too, there is something small you can do, like and subscribe. I would not object.